Hey, I'm becoming a pro at this carrying the world on my head thing. I've got it on the side, a bit like a fascinator. um, I've got 190 followers now, and that number, I'm not comparing apples and oranges. I'm not a content creator for the purposes that most content is created, or with the skills or the wherewithal. This purely started from just trying to, firstly, just to comfort myself, a little bit like a budgie in a cage, talking to with the mirror. Because I have nobody else to talk to. I have literally no friends. I have friends that sort of come and go, and a lot of them go after kicking me in the fucking nuts. But I don't have anybody in my life as a supporter at all. I've got no one walking beside me, as they say. So it started off as just sort of comforting myself, and then I noticed that I became very comfortable through doing that. I became very comfortable speaking to the camera, and I got a few more followers, and then I decided, look, I'm just going to see if I can get to an audience and to describe what's going on for me. And it's difficult when I get lovely people who will, like just happened now, lovely people who make kind comments and show curiosity, and it's because I haven't organised my videos properly, and I don't market them properly or categorise them or label them properly. And I know that I need to get my act together a bit, but it's quite hard. There's that phrase, flying the plane while you're building it. I'm just, like, I don't live in some sort of studio. Well, I do. It's called emergency housing. But what I mean is, this is not my main occupation. And I don't have the training. And look, there's lots of people with ADHD and autism and trauma who are very effective content creators, but you need to do a lot of work on yourself to make sure that you don't let your injuries and your disabilities take over the message that you're trying to put out there. And that's a problem that I've got, and that I do go off on rambles. And what I need to do really is to write a script and stick to the script. I'm trained in writing. I can write well. I can write well and then still ramble, but at least it's something to follow. Really, it involves a lot of technical communication, and that's what I need to do. But I feel like what I need to do is just do a bit of a potted sort of history, and I'm not going to do that right now because I think it's just, again, if I just start off ad-libbing like this, I'm just going to end up in the same position where I'm just blah blah blah, and it's not really going to reach anybody. But that's what I'm going to do. Unfortunately, putting together that sort of potted history, that's a timeline that has been one of the things I've been trying to do. I've been serially victimised for, well, at last count, it was about 2.5 years. It started in November of 2021, I think. Yeah, and it's not just one person. I do have one person who will, or one group of, or one mob who will hound me and hound me and hound me until I break. And then at that point in Wellington, I moved to Christchurch, and then it started again. And I often have multiple people or even government organisations hounding me. And I have two at the moment. That's MSD, and that is police, and courts actually have jumped on the police bandwagon. And it's very, very, very difficult. And then it's not, and then of course it's just peppered and with occasional kind of abuse by other people. Like I thought I'd made a couple of friends here in my emergency housing, and they both sort of turned on me in different ways. One of them one of them, I mean, thank God she was very, very drunk, but she's much bigger than me and much more accustomed to, well, I've never fought anybody. I've been punched twice in a bar brawl, two different bar brawls, but simply by walking past a little bit too closely. But I would not count that as actually being in fights. So yeah, someone much bigger and younger than me took a swing at me and brushed my mouth. If she hadn't been so drunk, I expect I probably would have had a busted lip and some broken teeth. So you know, I have people have a go in all kinds of ways, just constantly, all the time, and I think that I'm pretty fucking cheerful for that. But I'm actually there's a disposition and then there's a trauma, and my trauma is not my disposition, but it does come out, I'm afraid, when I'm being persecuted, and so I've not endeared myself to the justice system, and the way that they behave, I mean, honestly, the worst behaviour that you'll find on the face of the planet, apart from property management, comes from the justice system and police. Just revolting behaviour. One judge told me that I was rude for talking over him because I haven't had a word on edgewise the whole fucking way. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, that's bloody rude to fucking assume someone is guilty when they haven't even had a trial yet. For fuck's sake, rude, you fucking stupid old git. And so my thing is speaking truth to power, and my thing is being very forthright and very honest, and I will disclose everything, and I will not keep my cards close to my chest. And I have not thought that strategy through very carefully. It's not advice I'd give anybody else, but it's kind of what I'm left with when, you know, I feel like a car that's just been chalked up on bricks and had, you know, the fucking wheels removed and the windscreen smashed and everything. Like I'm not functioning, but because I've still got a you know, I do have a way with words, and I use that way with words to basically strip flesh off these ridiculous offenders, and they have a lot of power, so they just put their boot on my neck, and yeah, so I'm very confused. Traumatized people are very confused about what's happening to them because it's very hard to see the big picture, because you never get a chance to just stop and rest. And people go, it's amazing how many people say, I'll go and get some therapy. It's like, firstly, ignoring the fact that there is no such therapy in New Zealand. There isn't. We don't you know, the government kind of sets mental health treatment models, and our government is incompetent. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't have the time or the energy to go to therapy. And therapy is for, I think, recovery, not for, I mean, I feel like you need a therapist to sprint along beside you while a fucking tiger's chasing you. It's like they're more of a dead weight than anything else. It's like, keep up, therapist. You know, and I did have a psychotherapist in Wellington for a while until she left for a different city. And of course I would discuss it with her, as she already knows my history and has been there beside me. But I tried to have a therapist, and like the amount of effort it takes to bring a therapist up to date, it's like, this is stuff that I'm struggling to do for legal purposes, and I can't prioritise a therapist, and I don't have time to talk it through with anybody. I want someone by my side, but I want them already briefed, and I want them knowledgeable too, because you need someone who has legal knowledge. And I mean, I chose a particular guy because he had, I think he had some social work training, and that's kind of a little bit of a bridgy gap thing. But anyway, like, therapy is not, you know, like, recovery therapy is not for when you're still in the situation. So if other people are confused, it's because it's a fucking confusing situation for me. And I've got so much fucking evidence, and it's all higgledy-piggledy all over the show because I don't have a chance to file it properly. My computer's fucked, my phones are fucked. This phone that I'm on now sometimes fizzes. It fizzes and judders, and I'm like, you know how not to have a cell phone blow up in your face? Well, this isn't one of those ways. So I think I'm going to have to knuckle down and do my timeline, and I think I'll kill two birds with one stone. And actually it might help me to do my legal timeline if I just do a little potted history for the YouTube, you know, the genuine YouTube followership I have, whether or not they're registered followers or just return viewers. I think that might help me as a bit of scaffolding, so maybe that's an easier goal to accomplish. And because the timeline over 2.5 years, especially with police being a thread going through that, and police are the it's a really valuable concept, and it's in science and it goes into philosophy too, and it should go into law, and I think it is in law, but law hasn't really refined the concept enough to use it as a working sort of theory or framework. But there's you know, and this is a continuum. It's not just two things, but it's sort of defined overall in 2 points, and that's it's a causative point. It's a causative factor, and there can be an ultimate cause and a proximate cause. And that's, I think the law gets into that a little bit by looking at provocation. Now, in our Crimes Act, our provocation section has been repealed, but nonetheless, our Evidence Act does talk about propensity and veracity, and I think that those probably might do a better job at covering the provocation, but in a more sort of complex sense. And I haven't found anyone in the justice system who has they've just looked at me blankly when I've talked about sections 38 and 40 of the Evidence Act, propensity and veracity. I've been told by one of my parade of legal aid lawyers, because our Legal Services Commission won't do their job and actually give me an appropriate legal aid lawyer, because a lot of lawyers, as I've been told by a pro bono operation, a lot of lawyers cannot deal with traumatised clients. They're not trauma trained. They're not even mental health trained, you know. And trauma is not really, it is mental health, but it's not, you know, it's not the kind of mental health that you can send someone to talk to a mental health nurse about, because they don't know what the fuck, they don't know about trauma. So I'm really on my own, and I don't really want, everyone says I need to be represented. I actually just don't want to be represented, because I can't train another person well enough to understand what I understand. And so, yeah, I think putting together a potted history of what's been happening to me, and try to do that in sort of 20 minutes, having pre-written the script rather than just rambling on as I do, I think that would be a really, really good way for me to unfreeze when it comes to writing a timeline for court. Yeah, so I guess that'll come. I don't know if this video is interesting to anybody at all, but I think it'll be interesting to those who show interest and say, I'm really, what you're talking about is really interesting, and I'm really, I see you crying a lot, but I'm not really sure what's going on, and you know, you speak very well, but I don't understand the context. So I guess this is to you guys, and I don't know how to target you, but yeah, thank you very, very much. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'll do that. And so then when I post a new video, especially, like I put my the dates at the front, and unfortunately you can't seem to date sort, you anything on YouTube. You can only, sorry, you can't alpha sort, so, you know, alpha numerical sort. So it's not like on Excel when you go 2024 03 26, and it sorts. There is no, it doesn't look like there's an Excel function underlying anything in YouTube, so I can't do it like that. But I might be able to do that by categorizing and that kind of thing, but it's just work. But it's probably work that's better to do now before things get too further out of control. It's like you keep throwing things in the fucking spare room. It's like you got to tidy the spare room, so you got things to put away, because it's just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And I'm naturally an organised person. Well, I'm not a naturally organised person, but I trained myself very well to be organised because of the ADHD. And I can't stand chaos, and the chaos, I've got evidence up the wazoo, but it's not much good if no one can understand it. Anyway, I'll post this now, but yeah, I just thought that's a really good idea. I'll work on doing that, because that'll just give the bones, and it gives me something to work with. And I've got technical writing training, and a lot of that is about technical writing. It's like graphic design. People have very funny ideas about what those two things are. Technical writing is a lot to do with just planning. It's a lot about project management, it's about planning, it's about creating outlines of what you write. And the outlines are generally in the form of at least working titles and subtitles and then sub-subtitles. It's that kind of hierarchy kind of thing, like nesting. And that's a big part of technical writing. It's not writing at all, it's document planning, and I think I need to do that. I will stop talking now. Okay, thank you very much for those of you who care.